Welcome, another Talent Talk. I'm Adam Gordon from Candidate ID, and I'm just back in the UK after a couple of days in Munich, not working. I didn't tell you this, Arnim, actually. I've been in Munich the last few days on a stag do. Yeah, average age was 51, so it was a lot different to normal. We went to see Bayern Munich on Sunday. It was incredible.
Anyway, you like it?
It was amazing. Yeah, but listen, onto other Germanic type things, and it's Arnim. So Arnim and I met at Talent Tech Labs in New York back in April, I think, last year. And I absolutely loved what his business is doing. We subsequently met at HR Tech World in October in Amsterdam. And so your company is all about employee referrals.
Right.
I thought when you told me about it, I thought it was a little bit niche, but I'm not thinking that anymore. I'm thinking it's absolutely central. And so really interesting to find out a bit more about it. But no, I haven't dyed my hair. My hair is just this color, and there's not much gray in it. There's a bit of gray in my beard, but not much in my actual hair. So Arnim, first of all tell us all about where are you today, and what are you doing, because you're not in your home city. So where are you?
No, I'm in beautiful Zurich today. We're at the Impact Hub, as you can see behind me. It's a beautiful old factory building. We're having a workshop here today, but I just left it for an hour to talk with you. So thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Not at all. And just interestingly Switzerland's a really good market, I think, for a company like yours. Is it somewhere that you spend much time?
Actually, we do. It's on a global scale. It's rather tiny, but obviously highly developed. They war for talent here, because they are as other countries in the world as well. They are making their borders a bit tougher, and that means that not much new people can join the employment market, which is really causing problems here.
Yeah. So what is it? It's banks and fund managers and wealth managers and that type of thing. Is that the main?
Yeah, of course.
Economy?
Financial industry is a huge part, obviously. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's talk about Firstbird. Tell us about the business. Where did you come up with the idea? What did you do before it? And tell us all about the business before we talk about the kind of the product and we start talking about employee referral. So what's the background?
Sure. So the background is I was in recruiting for all my life. I was a headhunter, and then was heading the recruiting department for a big law firm. And back then, I received the challenge to reduce our recruiting budget. So we started implementing a referral program, because we realized all our lawyers are very well connected. So let's use that. We had a very classic referral program where we just paid £2,000 for a successful referral. And I, as a recruiter, I just could lay back, wait for the referrals to fly in. And after half a year, our referral program was dead. I didn't receive any more referrals, so we didn't really succeed with the whole program. And I had to go back to my job ads and headhunters. And there was one very specific situation where we were looking for a new head of M&A, a very tough position to fill. I couldn't fill it, so we hired a headhunter. We paid this guy, I think, £35,000 to fill the position. And when the new guy joined our company, we realized he knows already 3 people within our company. So we paid a lot of money for an external agency to find someone who already was somewhere in our network. And although we had a referral program, we didn't really leverage this network. That made me think, back then we started to look for a solution how to use our network and our employees better. Couldn't find one, so we started the solution ourselves, and that was the birth of our company.
Wow. Right. Okay, then. So when you looked around the market, there was literally nothing that was going to enable a really good employee referral program.
Yeah, but back then, that was 4 years ago. There were some in the US popping up, but nothing really in Europe. and of course that has changed a lot. But back then the solutions were really rare. Yeah?
So I actually have got I've got two quick employee referral stories that I'm just going to quickly tell. So the first is when I worked at PwC, I did two different jobs there, and each time I moved job, I managed to replace myself. And I'm pretty sure this is like quite a long time ago, and I actually managed to replace myself. And yeah, I made, I think it was 3,000 or 4,000 pounds each time that I did it. So that was pretty good, but not nearly as good as there's a company. Oh, I think they've just gone bust or something, or I can't remember. There was a company called QuickFit Financial Services, based in Scotland. QuickFit Financial Services is effectively motor insurance company, and quite highly skilled contact center people. There was a guy who worked there. They had a call center just outside Glasgow with 600 people. There was a guy who worked there on a minimum hours contract, and I think it was like 4 hours per week. And he only did it in order that he qualified for the employee referral scheme. And he was it was I think it was £1,000 for every person you brought into the business, and he was doing 4 a week. So he was making £200,000 on top of his 4 hours a week. £200,000, effectively being an independent, an insider recruitment agent. So that was very, very cool. But nice. There wasn't very many people. He just knew that this scheme existed, and he made good use of it. There wasn't very many other people doing it. So let's talk about employee referrals. So for a lot of organizations now, it's the #1 source of hire. How have you seen this changing over the last 4 years since you started up Firstbird?
Yes, a lot. When we started, we still had to do a lot of education about the whole topic. There were still companies who are a bit fearful to include their employees into the whole recruiting process, and that has totally changed. So I think that there's hardly a company out there that is not somehow tapping into the network of their employees.
Yeah. Okay. And so it's, as I say, I see that it's gone in a lot of organizations. It's gone from being something that was pretty much negligible to now one of the top sources of candidates. Do you know of companies now who this is their #1 source of candidates?
Yes, yes. Most of our customers manage to make referrals their #1 source of hire. But I think what you said is, I mean, referrals are nothing new. It's in the end, it's very, very old. There are stories about Caesar inventing referral programs because he paid his soldiers 30% additional salary if they bring a new soldier into the army.
Wow!
So it's something very old. Yes. I honestly don't know if that's really true, but it's a very good story, and it shows it's a really old concept because it's very logical and it makes sense. I think 4 or 5 years ago, we were in a situation where most of the companies tried a referral program in the past and didn't succeed. So the topic was a little bit burned. And now they start to reinvent the employee referral programs because there's a lot you can do wrong and a lot you can do right. And I think now we see more and more companies doing things right.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the main secrets to success?
So I can just, I mean, this is obviously very subjective, but before we started Firstbird, we messed up our own referral program, and so we did a lot of research why we didn't succeed, and in the end it was 4 reasons, and we are meeting these reasons all over again now. #1 is usually the communication. We see that companies, or that's what we did in the past, we just put our jobs on our internal job board and we're hoping people would see it. But they don't. So if you don't actively communicate your jobs to the right target groups, they won't realize what you're looking for. A second very important point is transparency. We were talking to a lot of our employees back then, asking them why they didn't do referrals. And one part said, I did referrals in the past, but I never heard back from you, so I didn't feel appreciated. So we see that HR was and sometimes still is a black hole when it comes to referrals. Because if you do a referral, it's a very yeah, you want to have a prompt feedback. You want to see, okay, how good is that guy, and will there be an interview or not? And you don't want to call the recruiter every day to find out.
Okay, hold on a sec. Oh, yes, go on. No. I've got questions about all of these, but go through the third and go through the third and the fourth. I've written them down.
Sure, happy. I mean, number 3 is my favorite one, and I think that's really the core. We were talking to a lot of employees and found out there's one specific kind of employee. They're not the hardcore referrers, that they are the majority of your employees, because they are the ones who very cautiously started being part of your referral program. They maybe shared some of your jobs on LinkedIn. They maybe referred 2 people, brought 1 guy to the interview table, but none of them got hired. So they have been active for a year or so, but they never received a thank you, because all of the companies just have this big rewards at the very end of the process. Yeah. So again, they didn't feel appreciated for their activities. And the core is really appreciation, even appreciation for the small steps in the whole process. And yeah, last but not least, it's usually what we saw back then, and sometimes still is that it's connected with a lot of manual processes. You have digitalized most of your recruiting, but then your referral program is still managed by Outlook and Excel, and you have to upload referrals manually to your ATS, which again is not very good for your data security, and so on and so on. So yeah, it's a manual process, and that usually is a good cause for not succeeding.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so back to that first one, the need to proactively tell people about the program. What are the best sort of techniques and tactics that companies are deploying in order to encourage more activity?
I think that the first point is the story you tell as a company. And you shouldn't tell the story like, guys, we're desperately looking for developers, help us please. But it's, hey, you are part of this company, and let's shape this company together. And it's not on us, it's on all of us to make this company great. Again, sorry. And yeah, really bring them into the boat and make them part of the future development of the company. And you can decide who's sitting beside you tomorrow. And I think that's a different communication you give to your employees.
Yeah, you can decide. That's a great way of putting it. You can decide. Yeah, you can pick your colleagues.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. What about channels? So what are the best ways? I mean, what are the best channels of communicating this kind of story to employees to get them involved?
So we have around 1,000 customers now. So we have seen all different approaches,
1,000?
And of course it depends. Yes, but yes, but it depends a lot on your culture, obviously. And although we are a digital company, I must admit that the best channels are offline. Making sure that on the day you start your referral program, you have a small flyer and a cup or chocolate on each place. You have roll-ups, or you have a big roundup, and all your department heads present the program, is much more valuable than sending an email around.
Yeah. Okay. Point here from Recruiting Animal, which is Facebook puts a lot of pressure on engineers who don't offer people from their networks to their recruiters. So what, Facebook makes people like feel under pressure if they're not opening up their network? Have you heard this kind of thing before, Arnim?
We did. It's a pretty American way to work with referrals. What we have seen a lot in the past, that it's in the yearly targets of executives, you have to refer like 10 people to the company because it's part of their job. But I wouldn't see it as part of a normal engineer to refer people. It's really an extra work that you should appreciate and value and not put pressure on them. But that's again a very subjective.
Yeah, no, well, his guest from Facebook said they do it. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. So okay. So the next one was about this kind of HR department black hole thing. I mean, so what I think you said was that people have felt like they've made referrals in the past, and then they've never heard anything back from the recruiters. Is that exactly the same?
Yep.
That's just the same as a poor candidate experience. Is it pretty much the same thing?
Pretty much the same, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely shocking, isn't it? That's really, really bad. Okay, the other one that you mentioned that I'm really interested in is this thing about the big reward happens at the end. I've seen a company which is effectively it's a software product where companies put up jobs that they're hiring for, and a network of something like 2,000 independent recruiters can all put candidates in, and they get paid not on a placement fee, but they get paid based on a successful applicant. So if the candidate, they get paid a much smaller fee. It might be like $200, but they'll get paid $200 for every candidate who meets the criteria, who absolutely they want to interview, whether they get the job or they don't get the job. Is that kind of thing something which might make employee referral a little bit more inclusive and a little bit more, would that encourage people to get more involved if they got a smaller payment for a smaller action?
Yes. Yeah, my opinion is yes, and that's what we see. What you mentioned is a good point, because what value can an employee really bring in the recruiting process? And my opinion is that they can bring good candidates to the interview table, so they can refer people who fit the job requirement. That's all they can do. If this person gets hired, is not in their hands. If their salary expectations are met, is not in their hands. So you reward them for something that they cannot influence, or just influence to a very small part. So I agree that you could rather reward them for things they can 100% influence, and that's a referral. Making a good referral that is probably rated as a good referral from the recruiter, because you might want to have a qualitative aspect in this. But yeah, why not rather pay €100 for that, or £100 for that, than £2,000 for something that's coming much later?
Yeah, and that you've got a much smaller chance of succeeding with.
Yes.
Okay, here's a comment which I'm not sure what the response is for this, but you might know, Arnim. Arnim believes in soft power. All you have to do is pat the employees on the head, and they will open their kimonos. Okay. What do you think?
I think that was more my response to Facebook. I think you cannot force people to make referrals, because a referral is a very personal, emotional step, and first you have to do it out of your own self, because you like the company and so on, and then you can reward them for that. But you in my opinion, you cannot force people from making referrals and for opening their network to you as a company. You have to earn it before.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree. They will be disengaged with you if you've forced them to do that. And
yep.
You know, go look at no disrespect to Facebook, but their average length of employee time in the business is pretty low. It's like 16 months or something like that. I don't know whether those two things are linked, and for any of my friends at Facebook, I'm not saying they are linked. Okay, so back to the whole concept of employee referral. Now, I have heard that it's become, from some of my customers, it has become the very first, the best source, or sorry, the number one source of people into the business when they've got it really right. Mm-hmm. However, I'm also hearing from some businesses that they're going to be sort of changing the way they do it, because they have been too soft on candidates coming in for an interview, because, well, that's Arnim's friend, so they must be good. Yeah. So we're going to give them a softer interview, and therefore, actually, it's not worked so well. Is this? I mean, you have heard this, I take it. What's your response to that?
Mm-hmm. It's a very good point. I think in general, what we see throughout all our customers is that 1 out of 4 referrals is getting hired right now. So the quality ratio is still pretty good. But I think what is very important in this process is that you still have a very good recruiting process. And it's not the employee who's deciding who's working for this company in the future, but it's the recruiter. We are still the professionals who have to choose and select the right candidates. And the referral, that it can be an additional trust you might have in an employee, but it shouldn't be everything that you need to hire someone.
Okay, let's respond to a couple more points here on the side. So Tatiana has asked, what kind of quality criteria might it be for a small reward? How can you say whether it's a good or bad referral if the candidate is not hired? Okay, so I personally think that if the candidate gets interviewed, then and turns up for the interview, and they turn up for the interview and they're not drunk or something, then that should qualify as that's the criteria. That's what they should get paid on. And something like €200, which is what, $250, is probably about the right kind of thing. I don't know. Does that sound about right to you, Arnim? Something like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty much the standard. That's what the companies we know of do when they reward good referrals, is that you get a reward when your candidate gets invited for an interview.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a much better idea. I would rather do one or two every month, and get $500 every month because two of my candidates have actually turned up for interview, rather than one every couple of months who actually gets a. Maybe I'm going to implement an employee referral scheme here at Candidate ID. That would be a good idea, and I'll just spend every evening sourcing.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. Recruiting animals. Some companies have sourcing jams. They get together after work and offer pizza and margaritas, and they go through your LinkedIn networkers with recruiters. Yes. My friend Liam Fitzgerald at Weetabix calls it a sourcing party. So yeah. Is that sort of thing something that Firstbird can enable? Does it make it easier?
No, actually, we want to help companies to avoid that, because what it is, it's a huge manual effort. It works, but it's not scalable. Every time you have to set up this party, and every time you have to buy margaritas. It helps. We have talked to companies who had really successes with that, but you can do this once a year or so. But besides that, or instead of that, you want to have a steady flow of referrals from your employees.
So I wonder if it goes back a little bit to what you said earlier about the need to make it a kind of exclusive type thing, rather than be saying we're desperate, we don't have enough people, and we're going to have some real problems if we don't fill more seats.
Yes.
I wonder whether the sourcing jam actually comes across as a little bit needy.
Yes, it can.
Is a monetary reward the best type of reward to offer? It depends on the individual, doesn't it? If it's for somebody like a salesperson like me, then the monetary reward probably is the right thing. But if it's in the United States, it's probably a day off work or something like that. I imagine there's various different types that perform better. What's your experience been?
Yes, thanks, Patty, for the question. That's my favorite question, the one
Good one, yeah.
We discuss most with our customers. I think there are two aspects of a reward. One is to reward the person, and the second is to make additional marketing for your program. And the problem with money usually is that money is very silent.
Yeah.
So you receive it on your bank account together with your salary. You probably go shopping 9.5 times from this reward, and you'll never tell anyone about it. And you don't have you're not emotionally attached to this reward. Whereas, as you said, Adam, a lot of our customers are working with holidays right now. If you receive an additional holiday, that's something you might tell your friends. If you, I don't know, went to the zoo with your daughter, you might tell all your colleagues, hey, I went to the zoo with my little daughter yesterday, and I could do this because of this and that referral. So there are a lot of very creative ways to reward people, and I think most of them work much better than money. But I have to admit, I think that's one question coming a little bit later is taxes. When you have non-monetary rewards, taxes can be even a little bit more of a pain.
Okay, well, let's talk. So Alan's asked that specific question. I'm curious how cash referrals work from a tax perspective. A cash referral is it's just deemed as, well, actually, it's going to be different in different countries, isn't it? But in the UK, it's certainly going to be simply an addition to your basic salary, and you will be taxed on it at the rate of salary that you pay. That'll be the same across the whole of the EU.
Yes.
But how would a non-cash alternative be more complex to administer?
Maybe first to the tax one. I think there are two ways you can give gross or net rewards. Usually it's gross, so you say, okay, you get £1,000 for the hire, and then it's subject to your taxes. And of course, if you earn more, your taxes will be higher, so your reward is less. And usually it's quite demotivating for people if they see, okay, I receive €1,000, but then on my bank account I have 437.6. That's people are getting rather angry than happy about that. And the other option is that you tell them, okay, you get €1,000 net, but then again is a huge effort for accounting, because for every reward you have to calculate how much you really have to pay, so this person gets €1,000. So it's a bit tricky. Just maybe one example I came across yesterday. We are working with a really small company who's doing interior design for luxury yachts. And what they did is they said, okay, we will reward the best 3 refers every year. And they calculate the best 3 refers not by hires, but by how many shares did they do on social networks, how many people they got to the interview table, how good were they. So they're really looking at how good are they as ambassadors on the job market for us. And the top 3 refers, they get to see one of the yachts. So they have a weekend of one of their yachts that got built by them somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea. So that's not really money, but it's really close to your company purpose. It's something you'll tell everyone about. It's something that's huge marketing internally, because everyone would want to see photos and you want to be the next one on this yacht. So it has much more power than money. Of course, it's a bit it's a bit harder to organize.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But also the individual, for that individual, I don't think that necessarily needs to be considered some sort of benefit of employment, because that's just part of their, is that not just part of their work? They're going to go and spend the day or spend a weekend or whatever it is doing something that's work related.
Exactly.
So it might not need to be logged as benefit.
Yes, exactly. So that's so that's a little bit of a gray area there, but there are ways how you can give rewards without paying taxes. Like one way one option we saw last year was one company giving office supplies. So you could choose something new for in your offers for £500. So a new chair or a new fancy desk or whatever. Because that office supply doesn't belong to you. But again, it's very visible to everyone, because you're suddenly having this super fancy chair and everyone is asking, why do you have this chair, not me? And suddenly you have people talking about the rewards and the referral program again.
Yeah, absolutely. So you could do things like massage in the office and things like that as well.
For example.
Yeah. Okay. So even if they pay, okay, we're going back a bit here, but we'll just answer some of these anyway. Even if they pay them for the interview, they can also give them a bonus for the hire if it happens. Yes, that's true. It depends on how complex you want to structure your internal recruitment in that way. You could probably do retainers, I suppose. Pay somebody 10 grand to start the process, 10 grand on shortlist and 10 grand on completion. Amy?
Sorry, sorry for interrupting. No, one thing we usually see is that a lot of companies pay after a probation period. So not even after you hire someone, but then 6 months later. And that's really the worst thing you can do in a referral program, because it's the activity of your referrer and the reward is sometimes like 1 year 1 year later. So you cannot really connect your activity with a reward. And that again, it's nothing your employee can influence if this guy stays or not. It has so many different different aspects. But what we see that more and more companies split the reward. So, for example, they say, okay, you get you get a bottle of wine for each good referral you make. But then, if this guy gets hired, you get another 500 bucks.
Yeah. Okay. Amy says, at the end of the day, you put your reputation on the line when you refer someone, so it should be a choice, and I don't think people would take it lightly. Yep, absolutely agree with that. Alan says, sourcing parties and GDPR. Let's see how that works out. Well, it depends at the point at which somebody's personal data goes onto a database, and it depends whether you claim legitimate business interest or some other form of
GDPR is a great topic because I think it will change the whole landscape of referrals once again. We see that mainly manual referral programs where an employee comes into your office with a CV in his hand and said, hey, this is a good guy, you should contact him. And then you put the CV in your database. That won't work from May on. So I think people will really have to change their their manual referral processes if they still have some.
Are you making any adjustments to the process you recommend your customers use or to your actual product itself as a result of GDPR?
Yes, we did. We had a very classic referral process. So in Firstbird, you could just type in the name and the LinkedIn profile of a guy you want to refer, and this was sent straight to the recruiter. And now, if you do this, the email won't go to the recruiter, but first the person who got referred will receive an email saying, hey, you got referred for this company by this and that guy. Do you agree to this referral? And just if this person says, yes, I agree, then their information will be visible to the recruiter. So in that case, we have this opt-in, which is necessary under GDPR.
Alan once got a tablet for a referral, which was quite interesting. I hope that wasn't the only option, because if you just keep getting tablets, then you'll have to just start selling them. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's the problem with rewards like tablets. Some people already have a tablet and they're just not motivated by receiving another one. What we are trying, or we're working very hard on things like a reward shop. So for every activity you do, you receive points, and then you can trade the points for something that really motivates you. And for some, it might be the holiday. For you as a sales guy, it might be the money, and for others, it's the weekend on the yacht. But really having personal rewards for everyone, because there's never a reward that will motivate all of your employees.
No, absolutely. So that's another interesting point. Again, when I was at PwC, there was for our employee benefits, we had a flexible benefits package, and you could go on to this portal where you just chose what you wanted. Is that something that Firstbird can facilitate?
Yes, exactly. That's something we're working on for quite some time now, and it starts with tracking. I think that the question came earlier. Not every employee always knows someone for this position. So you usually just have a very small percentage of your staff really participating in this program. That's the classic problem of referral programs. What you want is that all of them participate, and something all of them can do is spread the job on their social networks. So all of them can go to their Facebook and LinkedIn account and just post a job there. And it's your job going viral, and it's a great benefit for your employer branding and your recruiting. And even giving them small rewards for these activities can be a great facilitator.
Absolutely. So Alan's got another great point. Alan, I'm going to get you on the next Talent Talk, I think. Alan's got another great point here, which is to do with blockchain and tracking referrals on blockchain. Is that something you've looked at yet? Is that something that you've got an eye on? Where are you with that?
No, we of course. I mean, as everyone right now, we're right in the hype of crypto. But I mean, no. There are some other directions we're looking at.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so JobVite, I think, promised to pay everyone along the chain of a referral. Yeah, that's fine. If there's 10 people in the chain, though, you're going to end up with something very, very small. Okay, Arnim, where are you going? Are we going to go in?
Yeah, I just had to. I had to switch rooms. I'm still here.
Right. Okay. Let's just talk about like other things in recruitment generally. Your product is? I mean, it seems like a lot of recruitment products that have started off doing something kind of specialist are becoming more general CRMs. Mm-hmm. Are you? Yes. Do you continue to remain an employee referral product, or is Firstbird becoming something more broad than that?
And
tell me not to answer the question. Actually, yeah.
Yes. No. What we will stay or focus on is make your employees to ambassadors on the employment market. That can be more than jobs. Sure. But I think that in its own is a huge topic. As you guys wrote, JobVite and other ATS providers, they have small functionalities that offer referrals, but it's usually just a button saying, "Hey, please refer someone here," or share a job there. And it's really the whole process behind it, appreciation, transparency. I think that's a huge topic, and we are definitely not at the end of it. So we'll still focus on that.
Yeah. Okay. So this whole thing about paying everybody along the chain of a referral, I mean, how many is that going to be? I think there's a limit to how far you can send your chain before it becomes a little bit sketchy in terms of credibility. Do you support chains, or is it just the employee that gets paid?
No, so what would we? Yeah, so we say that there's one person who will receive a reward, and there's not a whole chain. Because there in the past there have been a lot of projects that said, okay, we make a whole referral marketplace where everyone can refer someone, and they all didn't work out, because a referral just works if there's a close connection between the referrer and the company. There has to be a lot of trust, because otherwise it's not a referral. Otherwise we're again getting towards the job board. So a referral really deserves or needs a close connection between these two parties. And that's why we have the approach that we just pay one person, this one person who's responsible for the referral. If someone else was involved in the process, that's on our business then.
Yeah, okay. So the comment here says it's demotivating if you post and it leads to hires and you get nothing for it. I think that's, well, you need to be able to motivate your people. And
yes,
yeah, I mean, what did you say about making your employees ambassadors? I think that's something I've seen other organizations doing, but you're clearly in a great position to be able to lead that. What else are you seeing? Let's just move away from employee referrals slightly. What else are you seeing in terms of recruitment that what are your customers looking for? What else are they kind of talking about? There's maybe things that you don't necessarily service, or other recruitment technologies you've seen that you think that's really cool, and that's yeah. Well, what else are you seeing beyond employee referral?
That's a good question. Quite a lot, and I think that's a big problem we have in HR right now. That it's really changing and getting disrupted from all sides. And I think that if I would be working in HR, and it's hard to decide where to start right now, because everyone is telling you that you have to change everything. So it's Adam, it's really hard to tell you one concrete thing right now. I mean, we're talking a lot with other vendors and startups, and what I'm still very surprised about is that the ATS market is still getting disrupted, because there's so many vendors and players out there, but there's still new ones coming, and they're still better. So that was really surprising for me. A lot of new ATS technology coming up. I think using data is massive. The bigger you are, the more data you already have, and no one is really using it. I think it's more a field you guys are tapping into.
Yeah, a little bit. And so one specific question would be, ATSs are becoming CRMs and vice versa. They're converging. Who wins? Does the ATS win, or does the CRM win, or is that just not a question?
I think the ATSs will win, but just the ATSs who understand to become a CRM. And I totally agree with. I think I've seen one of your LinkedIn videos recently where you were talking about marketing qualified leads, and I think in HR we always have the comforting thing that we don't have to invent new things. We can copy everything from marketing and just adapt it a little bit to HR. I think that's what's happening a lot right now. Really, making a marketing process out of recruiting.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. If I was going to pick one though, the one company that's winning that I see winning almost everywhere, it's Avature.
Really?
I see companies. I see the market I'm in is Fortune 500 and FTSE 100 companies, and I see Fortune 500 companies who have abandoned Avature to go to a so-called modern CRM, and then on the 12-month break point, they've gone back to Avature because the modern CRM did not do what they were expecting it to do, and they were better off staying where they were. I've seen that in 3 Fortune 500 companies since Christmas, which is really interesting. And the other thing that's really interesting about that is the fact that at HR Tech World in Amsterdam, there was no mention of Avature's CRM. It was only Avature ATS. That was the only thing they were talking about, was Avature's ATS. So finding that quite interesting.
Sure.
Okay. Cool. Anything about? Oh, no, in fact, tell us quickly about. Tell us about the company. How many people have you got in the business? Where are you based? Where are your customers? Tell us a bit more about that.
We're based in the beautiful city of Vienna in Austria. I think we're 33 now, and our focus last year was still the German-speaking markets, with Germany mainly. Germany is growing like crazy right now, so it's a good market to focus on for us. But we're having more and more customers in the US right now, and I think we have the first signings in the UK this month. So slowly coming there as well.
Cool, that's good. So we'll see you in London more often then.
I would love to. Yes.
Great. Okay, fine. We've covered a huge amount. I'm actually going to, there's so many interesting aspects to what we've just been talking about. I'm going to write a short blog, or I'm going to do a short video on this, because there was 4 or 5 really, really interesting points that I hadn't really considered, because I'm not in the world as much as you are of this whole employee referral area. But I've got to say, having met you a couple of times, I do encourage anybody who wants to talk about employee referral, talk to Arnim, because I don't know anybody that knows this subject better than him. He's also an extremely dapper and cool guy. So get some time with him if you want to talk about employee referral. And thank you. Thank you.
If you can live with a German accent, though, that's.
Yeah, no, it's okay though. Everything else is cool. So. Thank you very much for taking part, Arnim. For the 20 or so people who turned up today, I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for all your comments. Look forward to seeing you on our next Talent Talk in about a week's time. So thanks, everybody.
It was a pleasure.
Cheers, Arnim. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thanks.